Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for coming. It's a lovely group. Very happy to have you all here. We have kind of a tight agenda today, so we're going to be brief as we can. So if we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Grasso, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We could have a moment of silence for our first responders. Thank you. Okay. I'd like to introduce or have them introduce themselves, our committee members.
Dara Lindholm, Secretary.
Barbara Leifels.
Jenny Minton, Vice Chair.
Rosemary Panio.
William Gerstenzang.
Maria Fama.
Herb Breitbart.
And why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Noreen O'Driscoll, Director of the Yorktown Senior Center.
And we have Joe.
Joe Falcone, Recreation Liaison.
Our supervisor is going to pop in at some point. He's had quite a bit going on the past, 2 weeks that he's been supervisor. It's been really baptism by fire. But he said he's going to try to pop in here. And we look forward to, a number of people speaking, including Mr. Materano, who's here from a Recreation Department. So we have a lot going on. Deborah Petranchik, did I say that right? You're wonderful. Okay. She's the manager of cardiac rehabilitation at NYP Hudson Valley Hospital. As you know, this is we celebrate Heart Healthy Month this month. So she's going to get up and give us a little talk. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me here today to speak to you about a subject that's very near and dear to my heart. As she mentioned, I am the manager of the cardiac. It's on. I am the manager at the cardiac rehab facility, and I'm also a retired EMT. So I've seen this on both ends of the spectrum. So for most people, their first experience with heart disease happens to be their first heart attack. Nobody likes to think about heart health and heart, attacks and heart disease. So the first thing that they experience is a heart attack. So how does that happen? Well, in most cases, the heart attack has been brewing for a couple of years, and unbeknownst to the person, things that they may be doing in their daily lives may be impacting that. And we're going to talk about that today. Those are called risk factors. Now, some heart attacks come on very suddenly, without warning. Some come on very gradually over time. So if you start early and learn the things that you can do, then you can get a jump on this and hopefully impact or lessen your chances of developing heart disease, or at least severe heart disease. So what is a heart attack? A heart attack is when the blood vessels in the heart become blocked by plaque. Plaque is found naturally in the body. It is cholesterol, lipids, that comes by very different names, but it all means the same thing. It's a blockage of the heart. And once the heart has a blockage, it's not going to send oxygen throughout the rest of the body, to the brain, to the major organs, and that's when the person has a heart attack. So what can we do to help? The first thing you can do is exercise. People that come to me after after a heart attack will be exercising. They will do a 5-minute warm-up. They will do 4 or 5 different types of cardiovascular machines, such as bicycles, treadmills, rowers, something called a new step, Biodex. And when I say this, people look at me, their eyes get wide, and they go, I haven't been on a treadmill in 35 years. That's okay. We start it really slow, and we work you up slowly. And by the time you're done with us, 36 sessions takes about 12 to 15 weeks. You are a different person. You have a whole new respect for exercise, and in most cases, people will continue on exercising after they leave us. So exercise is one thing. The first thing you want to do is check with your doctor before you begin an exercise program. Make sure it's okay. Make sure that you have, his approval, her approval, and find someone that can perhaps help you start that program. They can give you some guidelines. We use something called the FIT principle, and you may have heard that. That stands for frequency, intensity, time, and type. So you want to make sure that you're exercising 5 to 6 days a week. Used to be only 2, but now they found that the more you exercise, the better it is. You want to exercise for at least 30 to 60 minutes a day, doing cardiovascular exercise. Now, everybody gets all upset and they think, oh, I don't want to go to a gym, I don't want to have to wear fancy clothes. You don't have to. All you have to do is go to the mall. You can walk around the lovely streets of Yorktown. You've got some really nice areas. You've got the tracks right here in town. And just go and walk and just make sure you can still have a conversation while you're doing it. Then you know you're exercising at the right level. If you're exercising and you can't talk correctly, you're short of breath, you're going way too fast, so slow that down. Let's see, another risk factor is high cholesterol. I'm hoping that when you go visit with your doctors annually that they're taking a cholesterol test to make sure that your blood lipids are in range. So one of the risk factors is to make sure that your cholesterol, your HDL, which is high-density lipoproteins or happy lipoproteins, LDL, lousy lipoproteins or low-density lipoproteins, and your triglycerides are all within a normal limit. Now, diet plays a big part in that, making sure that you're eating correctly, making sure that if you're exercising, that impacts those numbers. So those are some things that you can do to keep those numbers in check. Smoking, just stop. That's all I have to say in the matter. If you're a smoker, stop. And if you're vaping, stop. Because those are 2 of the biggest factors for people developing heart disease today. Uncontrolled hypertension. A lot of people develop hypertension or high blood pressure when they're younger. And some don't develop it until they're much older. It's important when you go for your annual physical, make sure you're getting your hypertension checked, your blood pressure checked. And if it's high, again, watch what you eat, make sure you're not having too much salt, exercise, and manage your blood pressure with medications. Another risk factor is being overweight or obese. And that is something that is very difficult to manage for some people, and I encourage you just to keep trying if that's one of your risk factors. You can see people, you can see a nutritionist, exercise, watch your fat intake, and things like that will help you keep that risk factor in check. Uncontrolled diabetes. More and more people are developing diabetes at a younger age, and that's one of the biggest risk factors for heart disease that we're seeing now in recent years. It's important that you keep your diabetes controlled. You can do that through many different ways. First is diet, making sure you don't have too many carbohydrates or candy, sugary sweets, drinks, things like that in your diet. Another is to make sure you see your physician and have your sugars checked on a regular basis. If need be, make sure you manage it with medication if that's what the doctor recommends. Exercise is also very important for people with diabetes because it helps lower the necessary insulin in the body. Physical activity, we talked a little bit about that earlier and how important it is. How many people, raise of hands, exercise right now? Okay. Excellent. It's no better time than today to start. So if you call your doctor and get his or her permission to exercise, the weather's going to get nice next weekend, great time to start. How do you start an exercise program? I talked a little bit about that as well. The biggest hurdle is to get over the fear of exercising. So if you've never been somebody who exercised regularly, find a buddy. Find somebody that is going to help get you out there. I kind of fell off the wagon with exercising a couple years ago, and I ran into a friend of mine, and we've been exercising together ever since. And you feel guilty when you have to call them up and say, oh, I'm not going to make it today. And she's like, nope, get your sneakers. We're going in this morning. Let's go. And off we go. So if you can find a buddy to help you, that will help motivate you and get you to commit to exercising. So as you can see, all these things have a very similar way to help the risk factors. Exercise is very important. Nutrition is very important, making sure that you're exercising on a regular basis. Maintaining your cholesterol levels. Maintaining your sugar levels, making sure that your sugar is maintained at appropriate levels. Make sure your blood pressure is maintained properly. And manage stress. I didn't really talk too much about stress, but stress can be a real factor as well. And it doesn't have to be, serious stress, but if it's stress over time, that also starts to weaken the heart and the vessels around it. So, and of course, if you smoke, stop. So if you take the time and make this a priority, you can reduce your risk factors for heart disease and hopefully avoid the major heart attack. Any questions for me?
Please, if you have any questions, wait for Joe. We got a new microphone, and we will actually be able to hear you this time. Any questions? And courtesy of the floor? Yes.
I did want to make a comment. I worked with Debbie because I went to see that department twice in my life. So I do have 3 stents, and it's a worthwhile therapy, and it would be good for anybody who has that problem. But she is right that you have to walk and watch what you eat. And the most important thing is that no stress, which we all have stress. I don't know how we're going to prevent that.
How?
How, I don't know. Just live in a bubble. I don't know. So, but don't be afraid of exercise. I don't like exercise.
Neither do I.
I really don't. I used to complain every day I was there with them, and they used to tell me to shut up.
I could
You have a
speak
microphone.
through here, right?
Right.
I just want to say one thing. I used to exercise a lot before. I used to walk twice a day, in the morning before I went to work. At night I would walk when it got dark, because I live in a neighborhood that if I walked when it was light, I never finished my walking because I'd meet all the neighbors and just talk. And I haven't really exercised for a long time. I just did some walking. But I have to tell you something. I just joined an exercise group within the last week or so. And I can't believe it that in just a short time, and I thought I was very active. I run around. I'm up and down the stairs. I'm moving all the time. I can't begin to tell you how different I feel from exercising. I can't believe it. I mean, I've only been doing it for 2 weeks now. And it just makes me feel so good. I mean, I seem to have more energy. And so, I mean, that's all because unfortunately I went to the doctor and my cholesterol is starting to climb, and he wants me to lose some weight and to exercise. So I'm trying, because before I go on medication, he'd like me to try that on my own first. So I really can't stress enough, as we get older, I hate to say that, we really need it, because we think we do a lot of walking and a lot of running around, and I live in a split level. I'm up and down the stairs a lot. It's not the same. It's not the same.
They tell me that doesn't count.
No, it doesn't.
I've asked that.
Yeah, it doesn't count. So that's the only thing I can say. But I'm hoping that I will continue it, but we'll see from day to day.
We're going to encourage the seniors, and we're going to have these conversations also with people at the mall, because in the wintertime, you tend not to want to go outside and walk. So we have to do that and find other places that we can have the seniors go to walk during the winter.
So I had a question, but first, if you want to lower your stress, Serafina, run for town board. It's so lacking of stress. My question is, a lot of people with diabetes, I think, are under the impression that if you drink sugar-free beverages, that it will help your blood sugar.
Hold the microphone up.
Is that true, or is that sort of a fallacy?
Well, it certainly helps keep your sugar levels under control, but sugar comes from many different forms in your diet. It comes from something we call carbohydrates. Breads and potatoes, things like that are almost worse than eating a candy bar or drinking a sugar beverage. They also create sugars in your bloodstream and will raise your blood glucose levels. So I don't happen to advocate drinking things that have, that are sugar-free because of the different types of chemicals that are in them. I'd rather see you drink water or seltzer, something like that will replenish your water stores in your body. But if it's a choice between, sugar-free or regular soda, I recommend the sugar-free.
Some people, someone told me that the sugar-free stuff tricks your body, and it still thinks there's sugars in there, so that it plays some games. But I don't.
I don't know that I would go that far. I
Okay.
mean, they might have been simplifying an idea that they had, but certainly, it's better than having a soda, because drinking soda has so many impacts besides gaining weight, affecting your oral health, with sugar, with cavities, and with raising your sugar.
We don't drink soda in our family. We just drink water and wine.
And wine.
Red wine, I'm sure.
I grew up on water and wine. No soda.
Okay.
Just one quick question. Does anybody know one lap around the mall, how much that is?
I do not.
They do have it marked. I know when I used to walk it, they would have markers along the upstairs, not the downstairs, the upstairs. So
3 laps is a quarter?
Three.
3.
3 to 4 laps around the top,
Thank
around
you.
the mall.
another thing I just want to remind everybody, and you might know that there are a lot of people that have certain insurances, and which will cover an exercise class. Unfortunately, mine doesn't, but I know if you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, if you have, there's a
United
couple
Health.
of them out there that will do curves, and it does a couple of
Silver
other-
sneakers.
Silver sneakers.
So you can be covered by it. So if you have, call your insurance company, check it out. I mean, take advantage of that. There's something free out there for you to use with your insurance company if you have that particular insurance company. So just take advantage of it.
To add on to that, Jenny, I think that there's also quite a few programs that are offered to the seniors
Yes.
through our nutrition center
Right.
and recreation department. I think I saw Jim back there.
You just have to make it. You have to put it on your. What I've done now is just put it on my calendar that I have to go 3 days a week. I just have to do it if I want to help myself to get back to being healthy again. I did have a heart problem a while ago, and I kind of ignored it, which I shouldn't have done. But now it's come back to haunt me. So now I'm just putting it as if I have an appointment with the doctor, and I go at certain times, 3 times a week. So that's what I'm going to do. I mean, you just have to do it,
Yes.
Joe? Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
I know the nutrition center down at the Yorktown.
Right. At the cultural
I
center.
go to 4 classes. 3 are dancing and 2 are exercise.
Yes.
And they're all free
That's right.
to Yorktown,
Thank you for the plug.
Take advantage
anyone
of
can
it.
come.
Yes.
We're looking,
Yeah.
you know.
Take advantage of it because it's there for you, and just make it
Okay.
a point of going.
Moving along. Move along.
Anyone else have any more questions for Deborah? Okay, we all understand now that we have to walk every day. We're all going to walk every day, right? Yes, of course.
I'd just like to say that I do have a gentleman that is looking to start a walking group at the nutrition center. So if anybody's interested in participating in a walking group around the track, because he doesn't like to go alone, and he said he would love company. I haven't got any responses yet for that, but if anybody is interested in that, please call the nutrition center. We're more than happy to start that group up.
Very good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Joe, that walking doesn't count. No.
Okay, we have one with us today. Our Senator Peter Harcum has joined us today. He's listening attentively. Everyone's going to walk, right, Senator? Okay.
He's got his walking shoes on.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the invitation. Board members, Mr. Councilman, good to be here with you. Always good to be back. It's a good time of year to come back because this is budget season in Albany, so it's a good time to give you an update. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of good news coming out of the budget as was presented by the governor. We're in the Senate and the Assembly working hard on it, but there are a couple things that should be concerning to taxpayers about what the governor is proposing, and we are pushing back on both of these. One is we have over a $2 billion Medicaid deficit, and a lot of that is driven by long-term care. So the governor's answer to this is to hold the counties responsible and push the increase of the cost back on the counties. Now, Medicaid, New York is the last remaining state that funds a portion of Medicaid through local property tax. So of your local property tax that goes to Westchester County, 40% goes to fund the state Medicaid program. What the counties do is they enroll people based on very strict rules that the state passes down. But now with the state exchange, the healthcare exchange, more people are enrolling in Medicare through that, so the counties can't even control that. So the effect would be that if Medicaid grows faster than 3%, he would push that cost back to the county. And we fought for many years to get the county share capped. So that's something that is very, very, very concerning to all of us. And the one thing that the governor did in this, oftentimes his proposals impact upstate, downstate, the city disparately. This is one where he's unified all of us because it hurts the city, it hurts suburbs, it hurts our rural areas. So we are pushing back very strongly on this proposal. The other thing that he's done is he's tried to further tinker with STAR once again. And we know how challenging STAR is. Who's had issues with STAR in here? Has anybody had problems with STAR? STAR complaints are the number one complaint that we get in our office. Tito Davila is here from our office. Tito handles our STAR complaints, the number one call that we get. So he has lowered the threshold from 250 to 200 to push more people into that program that would no longer get the credit but get the check back. We are pushing back on this as well. I was quoted in the newspaper as saying the STAR program was a nightmare. And I got a call from the governor's office, and they said, why would you say the STAR program is a nightmare? And I said, because the STAR program is a nightmare. So one of the things that we're trying to do, I had a piece of legislation which we passed in the Senate last year, did not pass in the Assembly, was a STAR Bill of Rights. And contained in that was a creation of an ombudsman in the STAR office. Because the problem is, if let's say Irv has a STAR issue, he hasn't gotten his check, he wants to know where his check is, he calls the STAR office, he may get one person, he won't hear back, he'll call the next day, he'll get another person, there's no case file set up, none of that. So that's what the STAR ombudsman would do, is have one person, one point of contact, open a case, see it through from start to finish till the issue is rectified. So we are now trying to insert that language into the Article 7 language of the budget. So those are really two very challenging issues that we're dealing with in the budget. Obviously, we're also looking at the education budget. We are all very concerned that we have maxed out the ability of property taxpayers to pay for education. Our Constitution says that the state is responsible for educating children, not property taxpayers. So the governor has finally understood that language, and he's now speaking that language, but the budget doesn't reflect that yet. So we're working on two fronts. We're working on the education side, and we're working on the Medicaid side to try to protect taxpayers from this budget were it to go forward unchanged. So that's kind of what we've been working on extensively with the budget. What I've been working on, I chair the Committee on Alcoholism and Substance Abuse, co-chair of the State Task Force on Opioids, Addiction, and Overdose Prevention. We spent the last several months, my co-chairs and I and several members of the Senate, traveling throughout the state, finding out what the gaps are. This is a big, big problem. 500,000 people in America have died. Those are like the World War II numbers. Have died from opioid overdoses in the last 10 years. The last number we have in New York of confirmed was over 3,900 in 2017. Which was more than we lost on 9/11. As horrific as 9/11 was, we are losing more people from opioid overdose. So this is a real crisis. We now also have new numbers that deaths of women from alcohol and alcoholism are skyrocketing. We don't know why, so we're going to spend a lot of time taking a look at that. So that is another pressing issue. As chair of that committee, that's where a lot of my time goes. I have a couple of environmental bills that we're working on that will help municipalities deal with the mandates, clean water mandates, that will help open up additional funding streams for municipalities. So we're working on that front. We've got 2 pieces of legislation to address the teen vaping crisis. You have to be over 21 to buy vaping supplies. So many young people are just going online. So this would require age verification. That would be one piece. And then the other piece would be any vaping materials that are delivered to the home must be signed for. Because a lot of times teenagers will just get their parents' credit card and they know mom and dad are at work. The UPS guy comes, they get their package, and no one is any wiser. So we're working on those 2 pieces as well. The other thing that we get a lot of concern about, and I know folks have heard about, is criminal justice reform and what's going on there. The need to do some things around bail and discovery were absolutely necessary, in that we had a very disparate system, an unfair system. We have a presumption of innocence in this country. It goes back, to our early founding, based upon when King George accused you of a crime, you had no rights, your land was taken, and you were hung. And if you were poor, they had nothing to take with you, and they hung you. So we value that presumption of innocence. And it was patently unfair that rich people could get out, and poor people with a presumption of innocence were stuck in jail for a long period of time in many cases, losing jobs, losing apartments, disrupting family life, all of those things. So adjustments were made to bail. They overshot in the judicial discretion area. We still need to give judges more discretion. The Senate has a plan to do that. I have spent a lot of time with police officers and district attorneys. I meet with the PBA reps. I meet with the police chiefs. I meet with both district attorneys from Westchester and Putnam, and that's who I get my information from. Very often, the tabloids, we hear these sensational stories that are horrible, and 3 of the most noteworthy ones all turned out to be inaccurate. It had nothing to do with bail reform. It had to do with decisions that judges made. And these things have been happening since before bail reform. I was speaking with the chief. They arrested a fellow for burglary. And obviously, because it was not a bailable offense or a remandable offense, he was released. He said the gentleman had 54 priors. So this was his 55th arrest. And so my question is, what happened the 50th time, the 40th time, the 30th time, the 12th time. Why is it now? Because it's January 1st. So to me, that is really where we need to make the fix. Is the serial the people who are the serial criminal, and that's what the police chiefs say. It's really 1% of the folks who are creating all of the havoc, and those are the people we need to address. Some in a punitive way, and the folks who come out the next day and are reoffending literally the next day, those are people suffering from a drug addiction. And so we need to get those folks treatment, otherwise they're going to keep reoffending, and reoffending. So the Senate has its plan. The other thing I forgot to mention on discovery reform is to maintain the anonymity of the 911 caller, which is paramount. We want to encourage people to do the right thing, to call 911 if they witness something, if they hear something. And if there's something going on in your apartment building or 2 houses away, and that person, when they become a defendant, gets the information that you were the one who called, you're going to think twice about calling. So that will be changed as well. So the Senate has come to consensus on a plan. The governor is tentatively on board, and now we're working with the Assembly to see if we can get the Assembly on board, and hopefully we'll get that passed during the budget. So that's kind of just a rough snapshot. There's a ton more going on. You're talking about stress before. Ed raised stress. There's always something going on. It's a very busy time. But hopefully, we all stick together. We work together. We try to build consensus, and we'll come out on the other side. So happy to take some questions. We'll wait for the mic. Thank you. Mike, Joe, Mike.
I offered to buy him roller skates, but he didn't want to do that.
That's his exercise.
Yeah, really. Yes, ma'am.
This is a real nice surprise that you are here, because I called your office during the week, not knowing that you were going to be here.
Good timing.
My concern is, number one, regards Medicaid.
Yep.
And the cuts that the governor is doing, and some of them are not rational, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, to early intervention.
Right.
And can you explain that to the audience, and also what your feeling is about those cuts?
Yeah, there are 2 things. One, there are cuts that he implemented last year. It was a 1% cut to certain types of providers, and then more so is the fear of what cuts might come, because the governor, in order to address this,
people don't know what early intervention is.
Well, early intervention has to do with children at very young ages. What he wants to do is the state typically covers half of that cost, and the other half is a local cost. He wants to shift that. He has not done it yet, but part of his plan to save Medicaid costs is to take away the state share and make that fully a local share. The other thing he has done to some providers, hello, Mr. Supervisor. Senator, good to see you. Thank you for hosting us. Is he has made some 1% cuts to some types of providers, but the real fear, going back to like the proposed early intervention cuts, is in order to find $2 billion worth of savings in the Medicaid system, he's put together this Medicaid redesign team. And many of the advocates in the healthcare community, from doctors, hospitals, patient advocates, fear that these decisions will be made arbitrarily and also in secret. And we have been told that their report will not come to us until very shortly before the budget is voted upon, if we're to have an on-time budget. And that's not the way that government should operate. So your concerns are well taken. Our position, certainly any money spent in early intervention is money saved, because, just like early education, but early intervention saves money on the back end. And so those are the wrong places to be cutting. The other area we have a crisis in our healthcare system, and we have many, but when it comes to our behavioral health population, our disabled, developmentally disabled adults, in fact, caregivers to the seniors, they have not had any kind of a cost of living adjustment in the last 15 years. So people who deal with our most frail and fragile populations and vulnerable populations can make more money working at a fast food restaurant than they can. So it's very challenging to attract people and to retain them, and so there's a lot of turnover. So there's a lot of turmoil, and then to your point, the cuts would put even more strain on an already very fragile system.
Well, I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but speech pathologists, physical therapists,
Yep.
etc., can no longer afford to work.
You're right.
And they cannot get the help. And so therefore, we're going to go back to the old system where we're going to be paying for these people who are not getting the services in public schools and later because they can't get jobs, etc., and so forth.
Right, and thank you for sharing that. The other thing that I have heard is that the state is making it harder and harder for the individual providers. They're trying to force people into these larger groups where they think there will be more economies of scale, but then they pay the therapists even less.
That started years ago.
Yes, yes.
Socialism.
Yes, so it's a challenge, and thank you for raising that, but these are the kind of things that we're pushing back on.
Good.
Any other questions for the senator right here?
Yes, ma'am. Wait. Yep. I was going to say wait for Mike, but
Wait for Joe Mike. The law that was passed in, I guess, January 1st, where someone commits a burglary, robbery, whatever, goes in front of the judge and he's let go. Is there anybody, and that is only for New York, is
Yeah.
that correct? Is there anybody in the system that runs a prior on that person to see if they've committed, like you said, 50 crimes prior to that?
right, and normally a judge has the full rap sheet right there. So what we proposed is the judge can remand somebody. Again, we're taking away bail because that's economically unjust, but we want the power to remand, and the judge can look at the rap sheet, and based on immediate risk to the community or risk of flight. You have all these people who have failure to appear in court on other warrants, and then they're just given a desk ticket and told to appear. That's not logical. So those are the two areas that we're going to plug the holes on, giving judicial discretion and also on risk of flight.
Okay, thank you.
Wait for Joe.
Thank you, Joe. The problem with what you're talking about is this. If our local judge picks up, or our police picks up someone, he's brought before the town judge. The town judge then reprimands him or puts him down to White Plains, where he's incarcerated. And in White Plains, he's turned loose because of the sanctuary garbage that we have to put up with.
That's a different issue completely. When I was on the county board, the policy of Westchester County was always, if somebody was undocumented and then was convicted of a violent crime, they were turned over to federal authorities. What this is about, this is not, that immigration is a whole separate issue. This is about, people who are picked up and certain charges. So my belief is if people are dangerous and they have been convicted of a crime, they should be turned over to federal authorities. That is the just thing to do. But again, we have a presumption of innocence, and if they are dangerous, they should be remanded, and if they're not, then they have that presumption of innocence. And quite honestly, if you look at the statistics, the overwhelming majority of people come back for trial. You know, again, it's at 1% and 2% that we're talking about that we need to give the judges the discretion on.
Well, and somewhere along the line, the press is not doing a very good job of pointing that out. And when we see people coming in for 50 times, 55 times, 100 times, they go out and create another crime. That has to be stopped.
Right, and that's the excellent point, and that's what I was making before. Is we need to find a way to keep the person who's committed 50 crimes. You know, why weren't they held after 10 or 20 or 30 or 40? You know, that's not bail reform. That's the whole system that needs to be reformed. Whether it's a sentencing judge, whether it's the laws to allow sentencing for serial offenders. The challenge, in fact, I was speaking to one of the judges the other day, is that there's no definition that they have of what a quote-unquote serial offender is. But you're right. Those are the people that we need the intervention on. Those are the folks who should not be out on the street for a 55th time or a 56th time. So you're exactly right. And to me, that's not bail reform. That's the whole criminal law needs to be looked at.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Can I ask just one other question?
Yeah, yeah.
You spoke about the Medicaid system and passing the charges off to the counties. I don't know what percentage we pay into it. Maybe it's not as high as you've been telling us, but the problem in that system is fraud. What do we do? What are we doing to stop the fraud in that? That's the biggest problem.
You're right. We need to do more, especially, you know, if you look at the numbers, and I can get you the numbers, it's not, there are individuals who scam the system. It's more these billing mills. You know, there was a doctor the other day who was arrested for Medicaid fraud and Medicare fraud. He was a heart doctor who did catheterizations, and on one day, the number of procedures that he billed for would have taken him 28 hours. There was another time where he billed for 3 days that he was out of the country. So it's these billing mills that are really costing the big bucks, whether it's an individual or the billing mills. But you're right, we do need more of an emphasis on that.
Well, I have a lot more, but I'm not going to take the time right now. As you know, Peter, I speak out at all the meetings.
And I'm glad you do. I'm glad you do, and I'm here to listen. Back there.
One moment. Wait for the microphone, please.
Wait for the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you. With the questions about repeat offenders, does a judge always get access to a person's history of other crimes?
Yes. Yeah. It's called the rap sheet. Ed? Oh, wait, let's go up here. Ladies first, and then we'll go to Ed.
Thank you. This is very simple. It's not as, so we have repeat offenders, and the judge is going to look at them, and they've been, whatever they've done time and time again, and so you let them out. God forgive me. How many more of people like that going to go out and actually kill people? And we've known that. If Tony said they're telling us the right thing, you know, so-and-so was brought to jail 14 times, 20 times, 50 times, you know, he was let go because he didn't have the money to pay or because whoever. So he went out and here's another one. So we see him in the handcuffs again. How many more people are going to have to be killed because of this law?
Well,
how long does it take?
See, the problem is it's not the law. It's the system, because this was happening long before this law.
Okay.
You know, you couldn't pick up the tabloids without, you know, talking about they call it the turnstile of justice, because some judge somewhere decided to let someone go, and in their wisdom did not think that that person was somehow a threat. So what we need to do is fix the whole system, whether it was pre-bail or post-bail. These are the folks who we need to address. The ones who are doing the nuisance crimes, like consistently breaking into cars and things like that, those are people who are sick. They have an addiction issue. That we need to address. But the folks who are doing violent crimes, those are the folks that we need to, at sentencing, find a way to hold for longer periods of time, because somebody with 50 priors should not be out on the street.
I thank you, but just one final thing. I used the word law. I should have used system, because it seems that it takes forever. Because by the time this group is working on it, another group comes in, and I'm talking about I'm talking about the government, and it's just like it's totally unacceptable for the average American citizen, and
Sure.
Someplace we've got to see it stopping.
We are working right now, I am working on, with a couple other senators, legislation to address that revolving door cycle. Like, we don't want to go back to the old 3 strikes days when someone's third strike was they would steal a slice of pizza and then they were locked up for life. We don't want to go back there. So what is the balance, to hold these serial predators for a lengthy period of time, so that they're not constantly back out reoffending?
What about the judges, though? Is there some way that we can figure out what needs to be done to, I hate to use the word educate, the judges, but of what they're doing?
I think that's an important piece of it, because there are some very, very, very good judges. There are some judges, like in any profession, of questionable motive, intelligence, whatever. So standards, and there generally are guidelines, but there is, particularly when you get out of the federal system, there's much more flexibility when it comes to state law. But I think you're right, because we have been seeing this long before January 1st.
Sure.
And then the other part is human nature. You just don't know what some knucklehead will do based upon. You could be somebody who has no horrible track record and they come out and do something. So I forgot to mention the other piece of this that I have legislation for is on the domestic violence side. Because when someone is arrested for domestic violence, if they could be held for a few days, it would give the emergency advocates time to create an emergency management plan for the victim. Our concern is always with the victim here. So now what's happening is someone may be getting out before the victim is even home. So what we have is, in this legislation, would be the ability to do an order of protection upon arraignment, as opposed to waiting, and then that way the emergency care group can set up the management plan for the victim. The victim can go home, hopefully without fear of the perpetrator coming back.
So Pete, I had a conversation with a constituent just yesterday, and it's sort of contrary to what you've spoken about, although you just did mention the one knucklehead who does something the next time out. So it started with the case of the librarian who was just killed in the Nyack Library, finding out that in December the perpetrator was arrested for attempted rape and being held, and then when the new law came into effect, it changed and he was let out. They also had mentioned the discovery laws, it's a former police officer, and the fact that the witness from the MS-13 gang was killed and murdered because of the discovery and the information all having to be out there.
The MS-13 story was false. That was demonstrably false. The Times and Newsday both ran retractions of that story.
So let's just stick to because the real issue that he started with was the librarian.
Right.
he asked the question, why can't our lawmakers in Albany just rescind back to what we had until they could fix it, rather than wait till April when the budget comes out and put more citizens in danger?
Number one, with the Spring Valley case, we don't know the particulars in why was that person not charged. If that person was an offense, the DAs have flexibility as to what they can charge people with, whether it was a remandable offense or not. So I'm not familiar with the particulars of the case, but to me, if somebody is arrested for attempted rape, I'm going to elevate those charges to the highest point I can. So, but let's get back to your process question. The process question is, it's not just going back to the old system, because the old system was an unjust, unfair system, and that's not going to happen. So we have a much better shot of making the tweaks that we have right now, which hopefully we will get done in the next couple weeks in the budget, than going through this exercise of trying to just chuck the whole system out. That's not a productive conversation.
Well, I will tell you, the family of that librarian would strongly disagree with you.
All right,
And-
Ed,
and-
I
and-
know
no,
you're
I know,
making your
but
political
I do want to share some of the facts, because this does relate to a problem that may be there in the DA's office. They found this gentleman, I use that term very loosely, with his hand around the woman's throat, had bit her on the neck to shut her up, and was in the midst of attempting to rape her.
Then why was he
a
not
hospital.
charged? He should have been charged.
He was charged with rape.
Yeah, he should have been charged with attempted murder, and he could have been remanded.
I think that the rape should have been strong enough for the remanding, to be honest with you.
Felony rape is.
Well, he
So
was,
I
he was
don't.
let out on the bail release.
All right. Do we have something other than
Yes.
bail
Can
release?
Yeah, I just want real
Hey,
quick.
how are you?
I don't,
Thank
I don't
you.
mean to
Good to
barge up
see you.
here.
Thank you.
I just wanted to come say hello to everybody real quick. Senator Harcum has done a great job for Yorktown, and he's been a great help to me. And I know there's some controversial issues that I know you're sorting out up in Albany. It impacts us directly here at home, and I have confidence that you're going to come to a solution for that. But
Thank you.
We've got some great things going on in town. Really great things. One of them that I know that you have been involved in is the playground that we're going to be putting in.
Yeah.
The special needs playground over at Granite Knolls.
Yep.
We're very excited about that. And for our seniors, I got to tell you, I don't know if you know, but Noreen can do the chicken dance really, really well. And I saw it when I was at the Valentine's Day dance. Yep, that's right. And the electric slide too. So, but we have great employees here in Yorktown. We have great representatives, not just in Senator Harcum, but Assemblyman Byrne as well, who I was with earlier this week.
Great partner. Great partner.
Very, very good partner. And listen,
Partnering is good.
we can have political differences, but we still do the right thing for the community. And that's what this is about, and especially for our seniors. So just know that we stand together, united, to provide any service that we can for all of you. Great job by Noreen and her staff every single day. And if you haven't taken advantage and gone over, she'll play the chicken song all you want, and you can get a workout after you have a great lunch. But I just wanted to come by again and say hello. It's a busy day. We're doing a lot of work in this town, and so I'm gonna have to run up to another meeting. But I did want to take a minute just to say hello to everyone. Wish everyone a belated happy Valentine's Day. And if there's anything you need, I also want to point out Adam Rodriguez, our town attorney, is here. So he's a great resource for us. And if you ever need anything, Janet Bell Castro, my executive assistant, is here. You don't have to wait for a town board meeting to come tell me there's a problem. We're here to work. We're basically open 24/7, at least it feels like it sometimes. And again, between myself and the senator and the assemblyman, we're here to serve you. So thank you for all you do for our community. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. And I will say the supervisor has hit the ground running, less than 2 months, and you got gray hair already. Welcome aboard. Thank you, Madam Chair. It was a pleasure to be here. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Take care.
I'm leaving because I need to leave.
Okay, the next thing we're... Okay.
There we go.
Senator, thank you for your answers. Tino, take care. Folks, I just want to come a couple things to get real quick, and then I have to run out to a meeting as well. From the Parks and Recreation Commission, they wanted, you're going to hear a lot of things about online registration, and some people had a concern, oh my God, what if I'm not computer literate? Online is in addition to how you've always been able to sign up. So you could still go in and sign up. We're still user-friendly, still people on the front line that you could go to and see a person if you don't want to do it all electronically. So that is available for you. They also will have their list of programs. I believe they're due out at the first of the month, so that's right around the corner. So look forward to the new programs coming out. Noreen, I will challenge you to the electric slide any day. Chicken dance. I'm a little shaky on the hips, but I do a good slide from my nightclub days. Then I also wanted to just let you know that I've been in talks with the chairwoman, Panio, about a course. There was a lot of questions that came out after the town board meeting where our police department awarded two of the tellers at PCSB Bank a certificate of appreciation for helping a senior that was in the midst of being scammed out of her life savings. There's also another case where they had an arrest where someone was trying to go into one of the other banks, and he'll be bringing that to us with a identity theft problem. So one of our local residents, if you watch the town board meetings, he's ex-police, Jay Kopstein, does have a course that he teaches. It's offered and taught actually through the NRA, but has nothing to do with guns. It has to do with identifying these scams, what's out there, and it's updated quite often with these. And Jay has offered to come into town hall or the nutrition center and offer this. It's about a 3-hour class, and he's willing to do that free of charge, just for the education of the seniors. And the last thing, which I am going to say is in very, very early stages, but we have had someone come to town that's interested in I think it's a 150-unit senior living community similar to Jefferson Valley.
Jefferson Village.
Jefferson Village, thank you. I know a lot of old people live in the valley also. So there's someone very interested. There was a meeting on one of the sites. I will say that I know he's left to go up to a meeting now, but one of the biggest takeaways that I had from that meeting was the fact that they realized that Yorktown is interested in smart growth for our citizens, and Mr. Slater, our supervisor, has instituted some programs where he meets every week with his department heads in building, engineering, and planning to make sure that these projects move. And that word has gotten out there that, hey, Yorktown is open to smart business. We're looking to do things.
Will that be in our lifetime?
I think so. I will not mention the company name because I think there are a couple of companies that might be going after this particular spot. It's already zoned properly. Mr. Grasso probably has figured it out, so I don't know what his favorite meal is, but if you want to get some more information, you might bring him something. But it will hopefully move pretty quickly.
Would you also just briefly talk about what you and I discussed with regard to the Veterans Advisory Board?
Thank you. I know Mr. Grasso has already responded that he'll try to be there. We will be having our first meeting, which is more of an organizational meeting of our Veterans Advisory Committee. Our Veterans Advisory Committee, so you know, is going to be geared towards helping our veterans, whether young or old, that come out, and there are different services, different programs available to them that they might not know how to go about getting the resources. So we're trying to put together a board who could help with that and help put the resource guides and the resources into implementation. And there's even talk about, we hesitate to grow government, but with the amount of veterans out there, there may be a need down the line to have someone who actually works, whether it's a part-time position or more, helping and assisting veterans in our town hall, where we're able to say, hey, you know what, here's a resource, thank you for what you've done for our country. Unfortunately, in our past, we have probably a 30 or 40-year gap where that has not been said enough to our veterans, and we want to make sure that we are there for them for everything that they do for us.
Well, this committee is particularly concerned about senior veterans. So I have asked Irving Breitbart if he would be the liaison from our committee to your committee, and I will be at the meeting on Monday. I don't know whether he will. Wednesday, okay. So I would like for him to work with you to make sure that if there is anything going on with a veteran that's a senior, not that we don't care about the others, but our domain is seniors, that we can try to reach out and help them any way that we can.
Absolutely. And this is one of those where I think the more chefs, the better the soup here, the better the broth.
You always have a food analogy, I noticed.
38 years in restaurants, and I do like food. There was a question?
This is sort of related to seniors and all of Yorktown. I just wondered what happened to the Economic Development Committee that was going on.
He was just here.
Yeah, the Economic Development Committee, and our chairman is sitting.
He just left.
Oh, he just left.
Yeah.
George just left. Is still running. I am actually the new liaison for them. They've expressed a lot of appreciation for the support that we've been giving them and where we've been heading. Right now, stepping into it, I noticed they were very broad brushes all over the place. So right now we're focusing on a couple of things. One is the branding, which the focus and format has changed a little bit. The second thing that they thought was their biggest priority was trying to bring a hotel or conference center to Yorktown. I have had a meeting with John Tegeter where we walked all of the locations this past week. And in addition to that, I've also had now 2 conversations with the CEO of a company that is a hotel franchise company. They do Marriott and Hilton franchises. And I was very, very surprised that a day after, or a day and a half after we had spoken, and I told him that we'll try it. Some of the spots are not officially on the market. So I said, look, we're going to have a realtor address them, find out what their needs are, put a sheet together, and get it to you. Literally, it had to be about 36 hours after the conversation. He had text messaged me, hey, Ed, do you have those yet? Okay, anyway, so that was very, very encouraging to me, and there's that, it's definitely out there. Other than that, we're doing a lot of work with Greg Brown on the agro-green initiatives that they have, and one of the things what they talk about is making sure some of the Yorktown destination items that are out there that people don't know about, which have to do with agriculture, are there. And Chief Noble is arranging for a visit with Chief Noble, myself, and Greg Brown to the school system, because there's actually a huge monarch butterfly migration that Westchester County is one of the biggest spots for, and they're trying to get the schools involved with it. And hopefully we don't have anyone from any other town in here try to claim the title of the monarch butterfly capital of New York, right here in Yorktown. And you know what? There's a lot of interest in that. Butterflies are huge. My wife dealt with Key West Butterfly with her company all the time, and you know what? The butterflies are great, and how they help propagate the plants and all is amazing. So,
Okay, thank you, Ed. We appreciate it.
thank you all. Have a great day. Sorry I have to run.
Is Mr. Owen Borda here? Here he is. Okay, Mr. Borda comes from the Community Partnership Specialist of New York Regional Census Center. He's going to talk to us about the census. Right.
Thank you so much. So you've heard a lot of great stuff, but none of that's going to happen if you don't fill out your census form. Okay, so the bottom line is I'm here to talk to you about what's coming up starting March 12th, the decennial census. It's going to be different this year than ever before. And I know Yorktown has done a great deal of work on this, but don't look at your papers. Put your papers down. I want you to listen to me because what I'm going to say is not on those papers, okay? The first thing you need to know is everybody needs to be counted. Last time we did the census, children between the ages of 1 and 5 were the least counted people. This time around, it looks like people in my age, up, are going to be also very undercounted because we're doing it different. Starting March 12th, you're going to get a letter in the mail that says, "Hi, we're the Census Bureau. This is how you're going to fill out your census. You're going to go online and on your phone to answer the census. You are not going to be answering this census on paper." No. Okay? So this is really important. You will be able to fill out your census online, or you can pick up your phone and speak to somebody in 12 different languages: English, Spanish, Polish, Italian, German, Tagalog, Russian, and on, so that there's no reason to not answer because of that. The town of Yorktown has done a great job of making mobile access to computers available to you. If, in fact, you can't use a computer at home, you're afraid to use a computer at home, you're not computer literate, there's people here to help you. So the first thing to know is that the census is going to be done primarily online and by phone. We will make paper ballots available in the middle of April, and if you have not answered our call for your involvement, people will come and knock on your door to invite you to be in the census. This is a second very important thing to know. Do not ever answer the door for a census worker who does not have badge ID. Okay, everybody who would come to your door is going to have a badge that identifies them clearly as being from the Census Bureau. The Census Bureau will never ask you for your Social Security number, your credit card information, your bank account. They won't ask you to make a donation to a political party or for you to vote in a particular way. Nor will they charge you to fill out your census form. We know that already people are receiving information online in their email account. They're getting phone calls and mail that says, "Oh, the census is coming up and this is going to be a tough one. So if you pay us $500, we'll fill out the census for you." If that happens, hang up the phone and call the police. That is illegal, and that is not the Census Bureau. If someone asks you for your personal information, hang up or close the door and call the police. We will never ask that information. And we know that people my age and up are very nice people, and we can get scammed easily. And I don't want any of you to be part of that scam group. So you give them your name on the census form. You're going to give them your address. You're going to give them your date of birth, your gender, your ethnicity. And then you're going to fill out on your form all the other people who are in that building living with you on April 1st. That includes if you're a person, for example, who might be living in Section 8 housing, who's got your kids living with you on a temporary basis, and you don't want, like, DSS to know that people are in your apartment, we'll never tell DSS. Okay? Census Bureau is 100% confidential. That means that those of us who work for the census can never reveal any of the information we see or hear in our daily work for the rest of our lives, or we go to jail. It also means that all the information the Census Bureau collects cannot be shared with any other governmental agency. The Supreme Court has made that quite clear. So, if we find information out because we're going out there that you're running an illegal daycare in your house, or your neighbor is doing the same, I'm not saying that you're illegal people at all, but you know that people have illegal apartments in their house in our neighborhoods everywhere up here. I live in Peekskill. Everybody has an illegal apartment. We can't tell the building department about those places. We can't tell the building department about multiple dwellings. All we can do is get names, addresses, ages, race, and ethnicity. That's all we can do. We are going to ask you if you own or rent your house. That's an important piece of economic information that we gather at this time. But what's so important is every single person needs to be counted. Every person. Because for the next 10 years, those are the numbers that will be used to determine the state aid to Yorktown, the state aid to the Yorktown Public Schools, the state aid that fixes the state roads that are here, the Medicaid funding, the WIC funding, the funding for your senior meals program, the funding that keeps the recreation department open. All of that comes out of this once-a-year census. So if we don't have all of you people counted, and all of your friends, for the next 10 years, Yorktown loses. For the next 10 years, New York State loses, because it also goes directly to how many representatives we have in the House of Representatives. It goes to how many seats we have in the Electoral College. It goes to the distribution of county sales tax is based upon the census. And the other thing to remember is that this is not a fudge factor census, right? We count one for one. And if we find out that a community has been undercounted, we can't just go up and go, oh, we'll add 3% because we know we made a mistake. It's not done that way. It's done by hard counting. So the 5 things to remember. The census is to count every person once in the right place where they're sleeping April 1st. That you're going to get a letter on March 12th, again on March 16th, again on March 25th, again on April 3rd, to remind you to go and fill out your census. Okay? 3, that it's totally confidential and safe. We do not ask for personally identifying fiscal information. We don't want to know your social security number. We don't care if you're in this country legally or not. Everybody who's here gets services, whether you're legal or not. The ambulance still comes to pick you up if you're an undocumented person from Poland or Nicaragua, if you're in a car accident. The money that pays for that ambulance comes from census-related dollars. The 4th thing is that we never share that information with anyone. The 5th I haven't mentioned yet is that we have jobs. We're hiring people for $23 an hour to walk around the neighborhood beginning the late in April into May through July to help us knock on doors for people that have not answered the census. So if you're interested in a job, I'll give you my card. I'm at the back. You just go online. Everything happens online, right? So you go on, click, 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 click. You 2020census.gov. You'll see a big banner. You click on jobs, and we'll be in touch with you because we need you. We're hiring about 6,000 people in Westchester and Putnam. This is the largest deployment of people in peacetime that the federal government engages in. Now, I want to invite my friend from Yorktown up to just give you an idea about what's happening in Yorktown, and she can tell you about your handout. I do have handouts in the back, but this is so important. Before she comes, if you're part of any other group that needs to hear about the census, I'm your guy. Okay? I'll give you my card. You invite me to go to St. Patrick's Church. That's the only church I know in town. I'm sure there are others. There's the Lutheran Church over here and the Methodists. I'll come to a knitting class. I'll come to a quilting bee. I'll come to the veterans. I'll come to the seniors. I'll go anywhere because I want everybody in Yorktown to be counted.
Robin, this is Robin Steinberg.
I'm Robin Steinberg from the Planning Department, and I'm the Census Coordinator for Yorktown. I did give you the packet that was on your chair, which actually is a lot of the information that he was talking about. This is what to expect, what the letter will look like, what I went through the things you can share with your friends about what the census will not be asking you. Most importantly, where to go for help. You can call on the phone. Westchester County is going to be using the call 211 to the United Way. We're also going to be having the computers at the John C. Hart Memorial Library available, and the librarians will be trained to help you fill out the census. We're also going to be doing it at the Albert A. Capolini Community and Cultural Center in the computer lab. That'll probably be on Thursdays, but we'll post the times when you can bring your letter with you, and we'll help you fill out the census. And we've also been partnering with the town clerk's office. When they go to the senior communities for their mobile town clerk's office, we're going to bring a bunch of laptops or tablets there as well to help you fill out the census, because we know it's confusing or difficult. You may not even have a computer, but we're here to help you. So if you have any questions about the census, please, you can come and ask me. I also included the entire census questionnaire in the back of the packet so you can be extra sure of exactly what questions will be asked of you.
So there will be, no one will call you?
No.
If anything, when you get the questions, you can call into or use your computer?
Correct. The census does not know your phone number.
Okay.
They're contacting you through the mail because they want to know who lives at your address.
So if anyone calls you on the phone and asks you for information, hang up.
Exactly.
Right?
And then call the Yorktown Police Department.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robin. Thank you. James, is James Martirano, did he leave?
Left. Go to a meeting.
Oh, okay.
Staff meeting.
Maybe you could talk a little bit about something that a lot of people have been asking about. Oddly enough, it's called pickleball.
Well, up at Granite Knolls, there's a committee of people, a group who plays pickleball up there. It's like a tennis, only thing with a wiffle ball. Go to the podium.
Florida sport. You know better than that, Joe. You know that.
The big thing now.
Yes, Joe Falcone, Recreation Commission Liaison. Pickleball is like a nice sport, tennis sport, only thing you're using a wiffle ball. And it bounces like, we have the nets and everything else, and you just go back and forth. And there's a group up at Granite Knolls. You go up there about 9:30, 10 o'clock on a nice warm day. I mean, a day like today would have been mobbed if it was warm. But there's a group up there, and you can get involved up there. They'll even, there's like a learning session. There are different types of, caliber of play. So there's people who are just starting out also. So nobody's have done this before. It's a great opportunity, especially with the warmer weather coming up. It's a nice sport. It's
Good exercise.
good exercise. It's great. I mean, there's a crew. Yes.
What is the address?
Granite Knolls. It's up on Stony Street. Know where the Phoenix House the Shrub Oak Autistic School is right now? Yeah. You'll see a brand new sports complex. You just drive right in, and they're towards the back on the right. A lady's name, you could ask for, I think, Lynn. I forget her last name, though, but she's like kind of is in charge of everything up there, and she, just volunteers to help people out and do everything with it,
So it's like tennis.
Like tennis, only
Not
thing
as
with a wiffle ball.
strenuous.
It's not strenuous. It bounces, and there's a big group of people up there. I got to tell you, it's
Tennis and ping pong.
be enjoyable.
Sounds like it's something in between tennis and ping pong to me.
Well, they're up there every day.
Everybody
They
in
just,
Florida
Yeah.
plays.
it's no organized sport, not like that. They just go up there to relax and exercise. They play against each other. Like I said, if you're a better player, you'll play against that group. If you're just starting out, they have people that are just starting out also. And it's an up-and-coming thing. I must tell you, it's for seniors especially.
So,
I believe they do, but you can get, once you go up there for the first time, you can get acclimated to it, and they'll, the routine and stuff, and they'll walk you everything through it. Excuse me? There's nobody teaching right now that I know of right now. I'm sure down the road the town's probably going to have one of the programs also have some kind of lessons going on up there.
well, we'll be sure that James is at our next meeting.
Yes, he was here, but
He
he had
was
a
here,
staff
but he
meeting.
had
He
to
was-
leave,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, yes.
And he can talk to us about that.
Pickleball.
Pickleball.
It's like tennis, the only thing using a wiffle ball, which the ball bounces also. I don't know why it's called pickle. Why don't somebody Google it? Yes.
Supposedly it was named after two fellas from San Francisco supposedly invented this.
Oh, cool. All
And they
right.
had a dog that used to retrieve a ball, and the dog name was
Pickle. All right.
Okay, wow, you see that?
That's,
How knowledgeable we are. Very good.
Also, while we're on the subject, I don't know how many people out here are golfers. We're working on the Route 6 golf course, the Valley Fields. We're going through the DEC process, but hopefully we may have a soft opening. Hopefully in the summer, the golf course has to grow in at least 1 year, so you'll have some kind of a driving range or a putting green out front in the beginning. There's going to be a lot of activities there also for a multi-generation group, the seniors, learning center, or for the youth and our disabled veterans also. We're looking into doing that, and it's going to be a great facility once we're up and running.
Good. Thank you, Joe. Thank you,
Restaurant
Joe.
also, yeah. Thank you.
As we mentioned to you, first I want to mention that last time, apparently Yorktown was underreported on the census. That's what I've been told. So we have to be sure that we pay attention to this because it's important. I told you last time that we had a suggestion box in the back. Well, we only had one.
Everything's going fine.
Apparently everything is wonderful. This is a bit of, I don't know, perhaps we should have a meeting responding to the many problems and questions brought to the floor by the seniors of the town. Well, that's what we're trying to do. As I explained, we can't resolve every issue. We are here to hear what your situations are, what your complaints are, and we try to address them as best we can, and we try to also tell you who or where in town you can probably get answers to that. Jenny Menton, our vice chair, has been working hard on this list. This is important phone numbers, and she's going to give you one of these sheets. I have a feeling that we're going to have two sheets before.
Well, it's front and back.
It's front and back. These are important numbers that we would like for you all to have. They tell you who we are, the town board, town departments, Westchester County, elected officials, federal officials representing the town of Yorktown in Congress. And obviously, this is going to have to be updated after the next election. State officials, these are just numbers, so that when we talk about an issue here and we say to you, we think you should call your state senator or we think you should call your state legislator, you will have the number readily available for you on this sheet. So thank you, Jenny, for doing that for us, and we will keep it updated, correct?
Yeah, we'll keep it updated. If find any mistakes, tell me in private. I don't want everybody to know there's a mistake. I did the best I could with it. I got as many numbers as I could, but I think each month or every couple of months we will be adding to it and taking away because positions and names will change. If you have any suggestions, just write it on here or put it in the suggestion box and I'll add it to it.
Right.
And then maybe every couple of months we can give you a new sheet or an addition. All right, so if you have, on the very, very top, though, I put the most important numbers, so even if you want to cut that off and put it on your refrigerator, I have, because I just went into a situation not too long ago, and I know the police number. I know it by heart, but when you need it,
you forget it.
Forget it. You're not going to know it. So if you want to take the top part, I have the Yorktown Police Department there, the Yorktown Ambulance, the Veterans Crisis Line, the New York Presbyterian Hospital, and I also have the Town of Yorktown's website and the government TV channels that we have. As you know, we have Optimum for Channel 20 and Fios for Channel 33. But those I put right on top in case you just want to cut them off and just put it on your...
Where are those sheets located, in the back?
They're right. I don't like to hand them, I'm funny, I don't like to hand them out in the beginning because what people do, they start reading this and they don't listen to us. And then after the meeting, they'll say, so usually whenever I have a handout, I will hand it out at the end of the meeting. So I will go back there.
my copy back.
Yeah, and I have this in my, Darryl was very, very helpful with me because my computer was crazy at times and he helped me with this. But I'll put them on the back table there and people can take them now. It's just that I don't like you reading them when people here are trying to talk.
I also want to remind you of the various programs at New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital, the Heart Healthy Cooking Classes, the support group, cardiac pulmonary, they're all in the back, so you pick whatever one you want, and we're going to have that for you. We thank them always for the lovely lunch that they bring us, and we look forward to seeing you in March. Now, we haven't gotten the final word on where we're going to meet in March. I'm trying to get us to meet here. We may have to meet someplace else because the auditors will be here, and they're going to be using this room. But they're trying to work it out so we can meet here. We will have a meeting, so please look on your TV and for announcements at the town board meetings about just confirming where it's going to be. But we're going to do everything we can to make sure that it's right here in this room. Okay? So with that, I'll hear a motion to adjourn. Oh, she's not here, so. Okay, anything anybody else want to add, or any suggestion that anybody wants to make? Please do so, put it in the suggestion box, and we do read it. So thank you very much for attending. We appreciate your attention. Thank you.